everyone. My name is Tim Wade. I'm your host. This is the Safety Wire podcast where we look at aviation safety from the ground up. I'm ecstatic to have a guest with me today. You know, when you look at this person on paper, you see some heavy hitting things such as veteran, business owner, MBAA top 40 under 40. But what you won't see on paper is kind of what our industry is starting to realize about this person, and that is servant leader, which is an attribute that very few people have, but it is absolutely integral when it comes to aviation. So without further ado, my guest today is the host of the Flight Level Zero podcast, Mr. Joe Peebles. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Tim, what's up, man? Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's a blast, man. As always, thank you for being on. Thank you for making the time. I know your schedule is extremely busy, which is part of what we're going to talk about today, what has been taking up so much of your time lately. But thank you for cutting out the time to be with us today.
Absolutely. Couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Joe. So tell me who you are. All right. For those of you who have not heard the name Joe Peebles yet, tell us about who you are and what you're working on these days.
All right. Well, everybody, my name is Joe Peebles. I am the owner of JP Aerotechnics. We are an AOG service, and we're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And we service basically 135 charters, mostly 135 charters, all throughout the Southeast, from the Panhandle down through Florida, up through BNA. We were just recently in IAD, which is in Washington, D.C., doing maintenance. And so we stretch all the way out to Memphis, Tennessee, and down to Naples and the Key West. And we basically just chase airplanes around. Whatever customers have an issue with their aircraft, we go down, effectively troubleshoot it, diagnose it, repair it, and get them RTS as soon as possible so that they can get their aircraft back in the air and flying and generating revenue for the company as soon as possible. We recently just started providing services for Part 91 operators, doing arrival departure support and some scheduled maintenance here and there. But it's really like a new thing for me. So just trying to figure out that whole market and how to provide an actual service that our customers really like. So that's what we're doing now, man.
Outstanding. Well, in aviation, you always got to be looking for the next big thing, the next thing that's going to hit out. I mean, you can't let yourself dwindle. You guys got an airframe or a fleet type that you truly specialize in, or is it kind of all across the board? Anything with an engine on it?
We're really all across the board. My experience is Gulfstreams, and over the past 3 or 4 years, we've really got laid out in the Citation lineup. So the Citation 560XL, 525s, 525 Bravos. Kind of stay away from the 10s, but we do work them. And then Bombardier, we do the Challenger 300 series, Challenger 600 series, Global series, so the XRS, the Global 5000, Global 6000. We work the Falcon 2000s, Falcon 900s, and Embraer. We really like Embraer 300, Embraer 100, the Phenoms, and then the Praetor series. We've got a lot of experience on those. And so we're kind of all around the spectrum, but I'd say out of the last 500 work orders, there was probably 380 to 400 of those were Citation 560 XLs. And so we've really got that airframe locked down to a T. There's not much on that airframe that we can't handle. But yeah, man, so we're kind of, like I said, all over the spectrum. We fix anything with jet engine on it. And so we really just specialize in showing up instead of specializing, especially on like a single airframe. My main goal has just been specializing in the process of troubleshooting, and that's really where we do great. We've there's a lot of companies out here that do the same thing that we do. They have departments, that do what I do, but they've also got scheduled inspections. They've got aircraft sales. They've got aircraft management. They've got all this other stuff. We only specialize in AOG maintenance. That's all we do. That's the only way we make our bread and butter. And so we figured out a way to make that extremely efficient, not only for us, because for me, it's like, this is all we're doing. There's a lot of other avenues to make money. There's a lot of other avenues to bring some type of value to my customer, but this is the best way for me is to lock in on one thing. This is all we do. And so when we come to your aircraft, I don't have something in the background waiting for me that's generating income. I don't have a 72-month inspection going on. I don't have some scheduled inspection going on down the road where if I can't figure out your problem, no big deal. No, dude, this is the only way we make money is troubleshooting jets and figuring them out on the road, on the ramp, no hanger needed. Rain, sleet, snow, sunshine. It doesn't matter what the temperature is outside. We're out working unless it's lightning or hail, so we're out there.
I love it, man. Some of the best restaurants in the world have the most limited menu, and because they do that one thing perfectly, and a great AOG team, they have their niche. They know their flight models, they know their troubleshooting, they know that certain niche where they're gonna hang out and prosper, and that's what's gonna build your name. Well, you don't want to be known as the company that did 19 cruddy things, but you got that one thing right. It's like, no, I can rely on you guys for this area, and I know you're gonna knock it out of the park every single time. So that was a lot of flight lines that you guys are covering right now. What got you into aviation that was able to broaden your knowledge so much? Walk me through how you got into this industry.
Okay, not a problem. Well, first of all, I was a troubled teen, man. Started out really young, getting involved in a bunch of crap that I shouldn't be involved in, and doing a lot of grown men things with a bunch of grown men when I was like 14, 15 years old. And there's a very prominent saying in my life, and life happens for you, not to you. It's something that I believe in very much. And so around the age of 17, I went to a program to get my GED, and it was a military program, volunteered. You had to volunteer to go to it. It was 5 months long. And these guys, these drill instructors that were retired Marines and retired drill sergeants, basically, came in and just smoked the crap out of a whole bunch of teenagers until we figured out if we wanted to stay in this program or not. And you could call your parents and say, hey, I'm done. I want to come home at any point in time. It was almost like buds. You come and ring the bell whenever you want to get out. And so if you didn't feel like being there, you could go ahead and leave, and it was completely volunteer. So I stayed in that program, got my GED, and then I ended up joining the military. And I joined the military to be infantry. I wanted to be like Rambo. You know what I'm saying? My dad kind of came in. He was infantry for 22 years, and it was like, nah, you're going to go work on helicopters. And so he kind of came in and went straight up to my recruiter and was like, you're out of your mind. My son's not going to be an infantry kid. My son is going to be in aviation. And that's really what pushed me to it. I got into that field. I joined the Army as a 15 Romeo Apache mechanic. Thought I was going in to work on engines. Whoop-de-doo, figure out I'm not working on engines. I'm working on the full helicopter. I'm just taking the engines off and giving them to the engine guys. And did that for a little while. And one day I got voluntold to be a door gunner. My platoon sergeant came out. And he goes, hey, we need volunteers for door gunners. And everybody rose their hand except for me. I didn't want to go do that. And he goes, put all your hands down. I already got a list. And my name was the first on the list. And so I went and crewed on CH-47s for about 18 months and acquired about 2,500 hours of flying in that time span. And, man, really learned the insides and outs of being not just a mechanic. I kind of learned that as being an Apache guy. I was in maintenance, heavy maintenance. I didn't do crew chief or anything like that, just straight up Delta Company, heavy maintenance. And did that for almost a year and a half before I became a door gunner. And then when I became a door gunner, I learned the importance of crew coordination, all that type of stuff. And I really fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with flight. Never been on a flight before until then, other than, flying on a commercial airplane. And now I'm sitting on the left seat of Chinook as a crew member, just sitting there and watching the trees fly by under me, doing about 200 feet off the deck, and hauling ass through the woods of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and then going out to Iraq, or sorry, not Iraq. I didn't do Iraq. Went out to Afghanistan and did about 250 missions out there, and just really honed in what it meant to be on the aircraft. And it changed my perspective, really. It went from, I used to just fix helicopters and then just kind of brush them off as they flew away. I still took my job very importantly, because people's lives are in your hands as a mechanic,
Exactly.
I took it very seriously when I was working on Apaches, but flying on them really changed the entire um, mentality I had and my perspective to working on aircraft, because now I'm getting on it, I'm flying it, and I've got to trust my work 100% that everything that I did is going to keep me and the 4 other crew members on board alive, plus the 30 passengers that are flying with us. And so really changed the whole perspective that I had there, and that's how I got into the industry was through military service.
Outstanding. I've known Joe for a little while now, so some of the questions are more interview type, but I've known Joe for a little while now, and it is crazy when we met each other how much just lined up in our history. It's crazy that we haven't actually met each other back in the military. Both Army, both Afghanistan vets, both Apache guys. So Joe's kind of one of those people that, if you get close with him and he finds out you're trying to motivate yourself or improve yourself in any way, be aware you're going to get text messages, you're going to get calls, you're going to get checked in on. If you say, hey, I'm going to be out running at like 4:30 in the morning, I'm going to try to improve, guaranteed you will get a text message at 4:32. You butt out on that track? You running? You sweating yet? He's going to motivate you, to push you to be better, which I love, because some of those days it's like, I really don't feel like going run. Crap, I told Joe I was going to go run. I know I'm going to get a phone call in a couple minutes, so I better get my butt out there anyway. So if you want some motivational leadership, Joe's definitely the person to go to. So awesome story getting into the military. So thankful that you were blessed with the group of people you had in your lives to turn your life around. We always sang the cadence in the military, go to war, go to jail. And from the sounds of it, you almost had that happen right in your face. So, praise God for you getting lined up with where you're at. And that's incredible with where you are now, how that lined you up for the life you have now. It's an amazing path we get put on. It's an incredible creator we got that's going to line us up the way he did. So, kudos to you for that. So you have one extensive military career between, and I always say to go from military with dust on your boots to business aviation, where we kind of reside now. It is a very, very different field, all aviation, but extremely different prerogative. How have you seen safety evolve going from military to business jets to everywhere that you have been? How have you seen safety evolve throughout your career? What has been like the focus of it?
Well, when I started in the field working in the Army per se, we took safety very seriously in some aspects, but there was some stuff that we didn't really pay attention to, such as hazmat, right? I remember taking my shirt off in the middle of the desert, opening up a fuel cell and just jumping right in, right? That's what we used to do in order to clean out. And we'd have 4 or 5 guys there, all with our shirts off. One would go in the tank for 15 minutes and work, and then you'd climb out. The next guy who's been sitting out for 45 minutes would climb in, and he'd do his 15-minute stint, and we would just cycle through guys. It's not something that's really talked about because it's super frowned upon. You know what I'm saying? It's not safe. And a lot of that I find was my own lack of initiative, right? I should have probably been reading some of the paperwork about doing what we were doing. JP4 is a huge contributor to guys with what is that? What does Michael J. Fox have where he shakes a lot?
Parkinson's.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So JP4 apparently is a huge contributor to Parkinson's in most veterans. Did not know that. I just found that out a couple years ago. And so we were sitting there literally with our shirts off, working in there, no ventilator, no anything, right? Mm-hmm. And back then, we're in a war zone, so it's a little different. It's either fight or die, and so we got to get that aircraft back up as soon as possible. It was a little bit different of a scenario. But I've seen safety change quite a bit in aviation, especially from my Army days to now. Now safety, I know every manufacturing plant, you can't walk around without a pair of safety glasses on, and you better not be caught not wearing gloves working on a substance that is potentially toxic to your kidneys, that is synthetic going to your body.
Hmm.
And, we have safety reps in every building. I've seen the safety reps also kind of change throughout the last couple of years. The safety guy used to be the guy to where if he was coming around, everybody just kind of like buttoned up their crap real quick and put on their gloves
Hmm.
real quick and threw on their safety glasses. But now it seems to be more of a culture where you walk around and you see guys. I know like some places have a mirror up when you walk into a door, and then there's like a question above the mirror that says, "Are you wearing your safety glasses? Are you wearing your PPE?" Stuff like that. And guys can actually see themselves as they're walking in and ask themselves a question immediately, which is huge. It's a great way to motivate the culture, to change it, and to move it towards
Hmm.
a more safe environment.
Yeah, I love the culture shift that we've had over the years, because I remember there always being the safety cops, and you never wanted to approach those guys. And now I think us in the safety side of the house, we've tried to at least cultivate a culture where we're approachable. We want things to change as much as you do, because yeah, if you're working in a safer environment, there's less reports coming in and things like that. But we want to be a resource to everybody out on the floor, and especially our mobile technicians as well. So I've definitely seen it shift where safety is more approachable, not just the old school cops, like you said. Um, so now you have been a technician, and now you've evolved yourself to a business owner. You are running JP Aerotechnics. How are you viewing safety different when you were a technician versus now as a business owner who's responsible for other people who work beneath you or work with you?
Well,
Excuse me.
um, well, first of all, I'm still a technician. I still turn a wrench. I own the company,
Hmm.
but I'm still very much an owner operator, and so I'm very much in the trenches of my business. The business doesn't run without me turning a wrench, just like it doesn't without my guys turning a wrench. And so I'm very conscious of the uh, the amount of safety that we need in our culture, right? So
Hmm.
um, before, when I was a mechanic, I kind of took safety as like I just want to go home with my fingers, and have my eyes working, and stuff like that. You come in with two hands, you want to leave with two hands, right?
Hmm.
But now as a business owner, the aspect, like the idea, has changed quite a bit, because now I pay workman's comp and I pay insurance and I do all that coverage, and I've got to make sure that those guys get home, not just me, right?
Hmm.
And so safety is a much bigger idea. Doing AOG, you've got to be super conscious of time on work. How long were you driving? How long you've been working? Should you be running these engines when you're this tired? Should you be operating the system when you're this tired? Not only that, you've got to do a lot of risk mitigation. How long have you been awake in the last 7 days? Were you averaging 4 hours of sleep a week or a day? um, or did you get a good night rest last night? Have you eaten today? How are your nutrition levels going as you're moving and operating, taxiing that aircraft around the ramp? There's a lot of things you've got to look at as not only the technician, but as the owner or as the lead, or any situation like that. You've got to really hone it in. And for the technician, you've got to kind of know your limits, right? You've got to know
Hmm.
when to tell the guy that you're working for, "Hey man, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I cannot come out here and safely do this job." You've got to know your limits and really understand that you have a say. You know what I'm saying? You have a say in when something's going to happen, because the last thing your boss wants is for you to mess something up because you're exhausted. The other thing is
Hmm.
they don't want you to get hurt. You know what I'm saying? And so if you've hit your limit on work time as a technician, you need to stand up and say, "Hey man, I'm done for the day. I'm going to hit the hotel. I'm going to get some rest, and I'll be back tomorrow, and the job will get done then." Sorry, that's just how it is. You've got to
Hmm.
get some rest. You got to get some sleep. And from the business owner side, I've got to be able to I've got to show empathy, right? I've got to understand, like, dude, this guy wouldn't have said that to me if he wasn't. I've got to be able to trust my
Hmm.
guys, and they've got to know that I've got their back, so that when they say, "Hey, dude, I'm tired," I got to call my customer and say, "Hey, man, these guys are exhausted. They're going to get some rest. Your airplane will be done
Hmm.
tomorrow." It doesn't matter that we have one operations tech chest done, and we've got 5 more to do, or we've got 4 done and we only got 1 more to do. My guys are exhausted. They've got to get some rest. They'll come back tomorrow refreshed. We'll make sure that we get all of our paperwork done, because paperwork takes forever too. You know what I'm saying? You can be done with all
Hmm.
your job. Now you've got 2 or 3 hours of paperwork to do. It's not going to get done in a lengthy time. And most likely, your RTS time is going to take forever because the guys that are doing your paperwork are exhausted. There's going to be corrections. Your logbooks are going to look like crap. All that stuff is going to come into play because they're exhausted. Let them go to bed. Let them get some rest. Make sure that they feel safe as well when they're working on your aircraft. And, I found that for me as a business owner and just as a lead in the group, for me to stand up for my guys and tell them that, man, it really builds a lot of loyalty. And it builds a lot of trust that these guys know that I've got their back no matter what, and as long as I can trust them and they understand that and they don't take advantage of that. And likewise, I don't take advantage of them and push them too hard or anything like that. The difference is they see me out there. I'm doing the same thing, so when you're working a 14, 15-hour day, so am I, you know what I'm saying? And so, we're pushing the limits. I know my limits, but dude, I'm not like a lot of people. I can work some ridiculous hours and not stop and still be extremely safe because I have processes that I have in place, checklists that I run through, not only on paper, but in my mind. I've got all this stuff kind of that I run through. And, I know if I get hungry, dude, I'm a little hypoglycemic, right? And so I know that my blood sugar could potentially drop tremendously. So even though it might be 6 o'clock at night and I've been working all day and I'm not hungry right now, I know I need to stop, take a break, step away from the aircraft for a little bit, have a little food. Not only does it replenish my body and get my sugar levels back up, but it also lets my brain take a break from what we've been doing. Gives me a little R&R. It might be 20 minutes, it might be 45 minutes, but it's some time to kind of woo-saw, recenter, and get back to work, So that's how I've been looking at it lately.
Love it. So to all the customers out there, you don't want fatigued maintenance. Okay. All right. So when your AOG teams and when your mechanics tell you, hey, we're tired right now, they're not lying to you. You don't want fatigued mechanics turning wrenches on your aircraft. That's a safety parameter. I think that's going to be one of the biggest uphill battles over the next few years, is because it's starting to get a lot more press and a lot more limelight on the fatigue management aspect of aviation. I think that's going to be a big uphill battle for us, is to try to match the same fatigue management that the flight side has on the maintenance side. But I'm looking forward to that fight. I really think we need some good regulation for our technicians to get fatigue management in place a lot better. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Flight Level Zero. Tell me about your podcast and what can we expect? What do you got coming up next for us?
Well, Flight Level Zero is a small podcast that I'm starting. We've got about 8 podcasts out so far. I'm still recording, still moving through it, but it's part of my mission. And one of my visions in my life is to help inspire people to move and grow, not only in the aviation field, but just in life, right? And so started the podcast basically so that I can bring on people that inspire me, and have been inspiring to other people and maybe influential in people's lives. I want to bring them on and let their story shine. These guests that I'm bringing on, we've had Cat Clay Wren on there. We've had Ian Lump, Colin King. You've been on my podcast. I've had a couple technicians on there. We've had a guy named Giancarlo Doria on there. We had Aaron White on there. About to have another guy, Antonio Ferreira, fantastic person from Connecticut. Well, I think he's from Connecticut. He might be from New York, but somewhere up north. But, really, I'm just trying to bring some people onto this show that can tell you, hey, man, it doesn't matter where you're at in your life. You can be working in a job that you hate right now, and every night when you go to bed, you dream of flying airplanes. Or every night when you go to bed, you think of dispatching airplanes, or you think of working in an aircraft tower, or you think of working on a flight line somewhere, doing something different with your life. It doesn't matter where you're at or where you're from or what you've done in your life. There is opportunity for you to make it better. And, to stop sitting and wishing that you could do it and actually get up and move and start making it happen. We bring them on. They tell their stories from where they're from. I'm a drug addicted teen, man. You know what I'm saying? And I've got my GED. I wanted the military. I thought I was going to be like Pablo Escobar. That was my goal in life. My goal was to be the nastiest person in the world, in all honesty, in my teens. And, look at me now, and it's because of the decisions I've made, not all by me. You know what I'm saying? Like I told you, my dad said, no, you're not going to be a grunt. You're going to be in aviation. And it kind of changed the trajectory of my life into moving into aviation. And I found an industry that I love. I found work that I love, and I found a way to fulfill this internal need that I have to spread this story of who I am, what I've done, and of what other people have done, and listening to other people talk about their story of how they got into the field, is amazing. And it really just inspires me more that life happens for you, not to you. It doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, what you've done. You have opportunity here. And so that's what Flight Level Zero is. Like I said, I've got a couple guests coming on here pretty soon that are phenomenal. Antonio Ferreira, me and him have been talking probably for a couple months now. Super influential person in my life so far, man. Great person, great soul, great heart. Really loves the business, and he's got bigger visions outside of what he's doing now. And we kind of feed off of each other. And I think that his story is amazing. I think that he's gone through a lot of hardships. And so I'll actually be recording that today, right after this podcast, and do editing on that. And then it should be out by, within the next 3 to 5 days. But Flight Level Zero is just a start, man. I'm trying to build a community of people that are movers and shakers, not just in this industry, but in any other industry, that are willing to come and speak on my podcast and talk about what they're doing and how, what are your habits? Maybe they can drop some clues that can help somebody that's listening learn or figure out something in their life that they've been going through. And that's what it's about, man. That's 100% what it's about.
Love it, man. As he mentioned, check out the stories he did put on there. Kat and Ian and Colin, they're all great friends of mine, love them to death. And their stories are all drastically different, and they are all at peak levels of their game right now. I can only imagine where they're going to go forward. Super looking forward to your next podcast coming out. I was honored to be on it myself. Anytime that we can share attributes of our lives that are going to motivate other people to love this industry, because I wake up every morning. I love where I'm at right now. Love my family life. I love the industry I'm serving. And I love the teams and the people I get to serve alongside. So Joe, I can't thank you enough for being on today. I'm going to let us close out because I know you're going off to record one more podcast, because the man's got to get his voice out there for sure. But thank you so much for being on today. I truly appreciate it. Your words of wisdom have always inspired me, and I'm sure they're going to inspire more. So thank you for being here today, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, man. And I want to be texting you soon. I'll be texting you soon. Make sure
I do have a run tomorrow morning. I got a long one, unfortunately. So 4:30, brother. Go ahead and give me a text. I'll be there.
I will,
right, take it easy.
Well, have a good one. Later.